overrated versus underrated. So the very first topic I want to talk about is the anabolic window. And this is an interesting one. And I'm going to actually give this a properly rated rating, as I think that, when I first started getting in this fitness thing several years ago, I would say the anabolic window was overrated. People thought that you needed to eat immediately after the gym so you could grow muscle. But this actually isn't true. Muscle protein synthesis post-training is elevated for 24 to 48 hours, which means that you don't really need to worry about getting that post-workout meal in right away. However, I almost feel like this has swung a little bit too far the other way, in which people totally think that you're a bro if you go have a meal after training, and they almost just go out of the way not to have a meal right after training. And I think that's too far to the other side. Never really has research suggested that it's a bad idea to eat after you train. So I think that right now the anabolic window is fairly properly rated, to where, yeah, it's not just this tiny little window that you have to eat food to grow muscle. It actually lasts for a day or two. But also, it's usually not a bad thing to eat right after your workout. And hey, it's usually a convenient time to have another meal. So I think the anabolic window is fairly properly rated. Now, pre-workout carbs, I think that this one is overrated. I think that a lot of people think that, hey, you're going to go work out, you're going to have a higher volume training session, you should have a lot of carbs right before you go work out. And this actually doesn't seem to be supported. And Menno Henselman's had a great article on whether you need pre-workout carbs or not. And with that, kind of the main takeaway is that unless you have been fasting for 8+ hours, you probably don't need to worry about having carbs before you work out a whole lot. But if you have been fasting for a while, then yeah, it might be a good idea to have some sort of bolus of carbohydrates before you go work out. But we store carbs in the muscle as glycogen, and this gives us energy while we work out. And generally, for just regular bodybuilding purposes, we're not really doing things that are going to just totally deplete that glycogen, in which we need that glycogen repleted right away. Now, if you're doing multiple training sessions in a single day and you're going to be hitting the same muscle groups in a single day, then you might need to be a little bit more careful about this. But I would say in general, people kind of overrate needing carbs right before they work out. And since we store carbs in the form of glycogen, it's probably not going to make a huge deal in your long-term results, whether you have a bolus of carbs before you work out or not. Now, the final topic I want to discuss is deadlifts for hypertrophy. Are these overrated or underrated? And it kind of depends on your thought process on this. I think that they're probably properly rated, as I think that a while back, a lot of people thought that they needed to do deadlifts for hypertrophy because it incorporates so many muscle groups. You can add strength to it pretty easily. You can get very strong deadlifting, and you can grow a lot of muscle with it. But I think more recently, a lot of people have started to realize that with how much fatigue is generated by deadlifting and how technical of a lift it is, deadlifts definitely aren't the best for everybody to have in their hypertrophy program. And I would actually say most kind of just observing bodybuilders that I know in the evidence-based community, they actually don't tend to deadlift a whole lot. And they might prefer an RDL or a stiff leg deadlift, something with a little bit better kind of stimulus to fatigue ratio. So I think that deadlifts are fairly properly rated. I don't think deadlifts are this magic panacea lift that is going to be special for muscle growth. If you don't like deadlifting, or they cause you a lot of fatigue, or you can't quite get the movement right, I would not worry about deadlifting if your goal is bodybuilding. However, can deadlifts also be a very good lift for a lot of people, and they incorporate a lot of muscle groups? And if I could only do one lift in the gym and I was limited to just doing one lift, I might do a deadlift. But we usually don't have that limitation. However, they can still be a good lift to progressively overload and get stronger with over time, and they incorporate a lot of different muscle groups. So I definitely think deadlifts can be incorporated in a hypertrophy program, but I think that people are coming to understand that you definitely don't need to deadlift to grow muscle and reach your kind of bodybuilding goals.